There comes a time in every parent's life when their child inevitably asks for a pet. It's as unavoidable as skinned knees and bedtime negotiations. Most parents get off easy. Their kids want hamsters that roll around in plastic balls or cats that sleep 20 hours a day. Maybe, if they're ambitious, a puppy that chews a few shoes before learning to fetch slippers. Quinn's kid wants a wolf. Not a dog that looks like a wolf. Not a hybrid with just enough wild DNA to seem exotic. An actual predatory, possibly rabid wolf pup he's somehow convinced to follow him home. She should say no, obviously. What kind of mother lets her 10-year-old keep an apex predator as a pet? The kind whose son hasn't smiled in months. And the kind who has no way of knowing that the wolf is actually a 9-year-old little girl. In her defense, Quinn was too busy worrying about fleas and ticks. What she should have been worrying about is the girl's father. An alpha whose blood runs cold at the thought of a human touching his precious daughter, a father who is tracking her scent across miles of wilderness, straight to Quinn's front door. A man prepared to tear down walls, break bones, and unleash hell itself to reclaim what's his. Chapter 1, Quinn. Please, Mommy, can we keep it? Quinn stares into her son's hopeful eyes as he cradles the furry creature to his chest. The puppy is suspiciously still, watching her with almost pleading eyes. He's so well behaved, Mom, Jeremy argues, his voice rising with enthusiasm for the first time since they moved to Pine Haven 3 months ago. Look, he's super obedient and quiet and won't bother the guests at all. Baby. Quinn starts to protest, folding her arms across her chest. How do you even know it was there? Jeremy pouts, making her roll her eyes. Mom radar is better than military-grade surveillance equipment, especially when your 10-year-old starts sneaking food from the kitchen and whispering to his closet, she says. Well, you gotta admit he's been a really good boy, Jeremy insists, holding the animal closer. He's been here for 2 days already. What? Quinn's eyebrows shoot up to her hairline. She had not known it had been that long. I mean, he's been here for 2 hours already. Jeremy clears his throat, adjusting his crooked glasses with one finger. And you never heard him bark, did you? That's a really, really good dog. Quinn sighs, pushing her short brown hair away from her face. She knows Jeremy is having a hard time adjusting to his new school. He won't complain because he never complains, but she knows. The 2 quiet afternoons, the way he doesn't talk about making friends. And Jeremy never asks for anything, ever. Plus, she has nothing against dogs, really. In fact, she's always wanted one herself, but the only problem is, baby, this isn't a dog, Quinn says, bending down to eye level with the creature. Jeremy blinks, looks at the pup in his arms, then back at Quinn. I'm pretty sure it's a wolf. Quinn narrows her eyes, observing the distinctly pointed muzzle, the thick coat, and the unmistakable wildness in its amber eyes. Where did you even find it? In the woods behind the playground, Jeremy says. He was hurt, see? He gently reveals a small bandage on the animal's front paw. I used the first aid kit from the bathroom. Oh, sweetie, you can't just bring wild animals home, Quinn tries to reason. They're not pets. They probably have all sorts of diseases and parasites and... I checked for ticks, Jeremy interrupts. That's not... Please, Mom, Jeremy whispers, his voice cracking. He needs me. The wolf, because Quinn is 100% certain it's a wolf, looks up at her with big, sorrowful eyes. It whimpers softly, lowering its head in what seems like a deliberate appeal to her sympathies. Quinn feels her resolve weakening. Damn it. The phone rings from the living room, its shrill tone echoing through the old Victorian house. That must be Meg from downstairs. I'll be right back, Quinn says. But what about Fangs? Jeremy calls after her. You named it Fangs? Quinn asks, turning back with a raised eyebrow. He's got good ones, Jeremy replies. Quinn sighs. It can stay tonight, she concedes, just tonight. And after that? Jeremy presses, his eyes lighting up with hope. Haven't decided yet, Quinn says firmly, heading down the stairs of their top-floor apartment to the main part of the inn below. The phone at the front desk is ringing off the hook, and Quinn can hear Meg's harried voice trying to calm someone down. She hurries through the hallway decorated with wall-mounted postcards of Pine Haven's scenic mountains. Finally, Meg exclaims when Quinn emerges into the lobby. She's standing behind the front desk, receiver pressed between her ear and shoulder, frantically clicking through the ancient computer system. There's a double booking for room 3 this weekend. The system shows the Andersons arriving Friday, but I've got Mrs. Miller on the phone and... Quinn takes the phone from Meg. Crisis averted, she says, after sorting out the booking mess, eyeing the pile of bills waiting for her attention. Now on to my Jeremy crisis. What Jeremy crisis? Meg asks. Kid's a saint, unlike his mother. Quinn shoots her a glare. Well, the saint has brought home a wolf pup, she says, massaging her temple. He brought home a wolf? Meg's voice rises an octave. A wolf pup, Quinn corrects. Meg squints her eyes at her. Please tell me you're not letting him keep it. Just for tonight, Quinn defends. Meg's jaw drops. You can't be serious. Quinn, wolves are dangerous. Not appropriate for a child. Or an inn, for that matter. Look, I know, okay? But the kid had such a rough time since we moved here, and you should have seen his face tonight, Meg. First real smile in months. So, get him a Nintendo like every parent does, Meg argues. With what money? Quinn sighs. At least the wolf is free. Oh no, Meg groans. You're going to let him keep it, aren't you? I haven't decided anything, Quinn protests, but just so you know, that wolf is really, really cute. She looks around the front office, at the vintage check-in desk she'd refinished herself, the hand-painted sign welcoming guests to Pine Haven Inn, the antique key rack that had belonged to her great-aunt. 3 months of back-breaking work to turn this old family property into a functioning business, and she's barely making ends meet. And now her son wants to add a wolf to the mix. Chapter 2. Jeremy. Jeremy sits cross-legged on his bedroom floor, arranging a small pile of beef jerky strips beside his new pet. It's going to be okay, Jeremy whispers. Mom said you can stay for now, and once she really gets to know you, she'll let you stay forever. Fangs tilts his head, eyes fixed on Jeremy's face. You're a good listener, Jeremy says, smiling. It's nice having someone to talk to who doesn't interrupt or tell him to speak up or make fun of his glasses. Suddenly, Fangs yelps, a high-pitched, almost human sound, and bolts across the room, diving into Jeremy's closet. Fangs? Jeremy stands up, confused. Strange noises come from the closet. rustling, thumping. Jeremy's heart pounds. Is Fangs hurt? Did he go in there to have an accident? Taking a deep breath, Jeremy inches toward the closet. "Hello?" he calls out, his voice embarrassingly squeaky. Gathering his courage, he yanks the door open. Wrapped in his favorite blue sweater, clutching it around herself like a makeshift dress, is a girl. A girl who definitely hadn't been there before. So naturally, Jeremy screams. Reflexively, the girl screams right back. "What are you doing here?" Jeremy demands. "Where's Fangs?" He pushes the closet door wider, scanning the small space. His winter boots, his rain jacket. No wolf. "Where is he?" Jeremy asks again, staring at the little girl. She has wild red hair, which reminds him of Fang's fur and is about his age, maybe a bit younger, with freckles scattered across her nose and cheeks. He left?" The girl tries, biting her lip. "What? Where?" Jeremy asks, looking into the closet once more. It's completely empty except for his belongings and this strange girl. He looks at the girl, then the closet, then the girl again. "Fine, you win. I'm Fangs," the girl blurts out, throwing her hands up. Jeremy blinks. "You're what?" "I'm him, the wolf. Well, she. I was always a girl. I switch forms, not genders." The girl adds, like this is somehow the most relevant piece of information here. "You switch forms?" Jeremy's mouth hangs open. "It's crazy that you don't know how to differentiate a female wolf from a male, actually," the little girl insists, nervously tugging his sweater tighter around herself. "Don't they teach you things at human school?" "Human school?" Jeremy repeats, bewildered. "Whatever you call it," she says with a shrug. "Look, I can prove I'm Fangs." "How?" "You fed me beef jerky and saltine crackers yesterday. You told me your mom would be mad if she found out you were sneaking food from the kitchen. And you read me 3 chapters from that book about the kids who find a magic wardrobe." She points to his copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe on his nightstand. Jeremy's eyes widen. "Who are you?" he asks. "My real name is Eva." She extends her hand like an adult would, which strikes Jeremy as both weird and kind of cool. Eva Keane. Jeremy shakes her hand automatically, his brain still trying to process what's happening. "But how?" "I'm a shifter," Eva explains, perching on the edge of his bed like she owns it. "Part human, part wolf. I can turn into either one." "Why didn't you just say so before?" Jeremy asks, thinking it must have been awkward for Eva to act like a pet when he'd scratched behind her ears. Eva rolls her eyes. "Because I can't talk as a wolf, duh." "Okay, well, why didn't you just turn back and tell me?" Now it's Eva's turn to look embarrassed. "I've been having trouble switching back and forth between forms," she mumbles. "Why?" Jeremy asks. "What's the problem?" Eva's head snaps up. "It's not a problem. It's very common for shifters my age, actually," she quips, lifting her chin defiantly. "I didn't mean—" Jeremy starts, but stops. He's more focused on wrapping his head around the situation. "So you're a wolf and a human, all at once?" "Yes," Eva says, watching him carefully. Jeremy gapes and then, "That's so cool," he exclaims. Eva's face breaks into a grin. "Right?" She sits up straighter, practically preening. "Can I be a shifter too?" Jeremy asks eagerly. How awesome it would be if he could turn into a wolf whenever he wanted. No, you have to be born one, Eva explains, in a tone that suggests she believes Jeremy to be particularly slow. Isn't there, like, a thing where if you bite me, I'll turn into one? Jeremy suggests, remembering werewolf movies he wasn't supposed to watch. Well, yes, but you wouldn't survive, Eva says matter-of-factly. It would kill you. Jeremy gulps, which Eva notices. Don't worry, I won't bite you, she assures him. Ever, it's forbidden. By who? By our alpha, obviously. Oh, okay. Jeremy nods, then pauses. What's an alpha? Ava's eyes widen. You don't know what an alpha is? She sits up straighter. The alpha is the pack leader, the strongest, fastest, most powerful wolf in the whole pack. You have a pack? Jeremy asks, awed. Well, of course I do, otherwise I'd be a rogue, Eva tells him. And in the pack, everyone has to do what the alpha says. He protects everyone and makes all the important decisions. And he can even command other wolves with just his voice. Wow, Jeremy whispers, impressed. And is he, nice? Eva blinks at him for several seconds. He doesn't have to be nice, she tells him slowly. He's the alpha. Okay, Jeremy says, but... Though I guess he does tell nice bedtime stories. Eva concedes with a pout. He hasn't done it in a while. Your alpha reads bedtime stories? Jeremy asks. He had imagined some kind of massive wolf warrior, and somehow the image doesn't quite fit. Oh, Eva chuckles. Not usually, no, but he does with me, 'cause he's my daddy. Jeremy thinks perhaps Eva should have led with that, but he doesn't have an alpha or a father, so... What does he know? Crap, Jeremy says. You probably need to get back home or something now, don't you? To his surprise, Eva vehemently shakes her head. Definitely not, she says. The alpha will be furious that I've left. Who knows if he's going to let me back in at all? He was already very disappointed in me for not being able to shift back. Is that why you ran away? Jeremy asks. Eva shrugs, looking purposely away. It's not your fault you can't shift back, Jeremy protests. I'm sure you did your best. My best isn't enough, Eva mumbles. Other wolves my age have no trouble shifting back. I'm a pretty bad shifter. That's not true, Jeremy says firmly. You're super cool. I wish I could do what you can do. Eva smiles hesitantly. You really mean that? Of course I do, Jeremy exclaims. Can you show me how you shift? Okay, Eva says, chirping up. She closes her eyes, her face scrunching up in concentration. For a moment, nothing happens. Then suddenly, where the little girl had been sitting, there's now a sandy-colored wolf pup. Jeremy's jaw drops. Wow, he gasps. That's so cool. Fangs, Eva gives a happy little yip, her tail wagging furiously. Oh my God, Mom is going to freak when I tell her about this, Jeremy exclaims. Eva barks sharply and backs away, shaking her head vigorously. Wait, you don't want me to tell her? Jeremy asks, suddenly understanding. But why not? Eva just looks at him, those amber eyes somehow managing to look pleading. Okay, I won't tell. It'll be our secret, Jeremy promises. Chapter 3, Quinn. We should really take Fangs to the vet today. Quinn says the next morning, pouring milk over Jeremy's cereal. Get him checked out? Jeremy's spoon freezes halfway to his mouth. Fangs is a girl, he says, purposely ignoring the rest. Quinn leans against the kitchen counter of their small apartment above the inn, studying her son. Is everything okay at school, honey? She asks carefully. Jeremy shoots her a confused glance. Mom, it's Saturday, he reminds her, making Quinn roll her eyes. I mean, generally, kiddo, how are things going? Jeremy's eyes shift away from hers. Fine. Quinn opens her mouth to press further when her alarm beeps. Breakfast service for the guests starts in 15 minutes. Darn it, she sighs. I've got to go. Want to bring your homework to the dining room? I should stay with Fangs, Jeremy says, reaching down to scratch the wolf pup's ears. She'd be lonely. Quinn wants to insist, but the clock is ticking, and Mrs. Henderson from room 4 gets positively feral if her coffee isn't waiting exactly at 7. Guilt gnaws at Quinn as she ties her apron, though. Back in Portland, Jeremy had friends. Not many, but a couple. Here in Pine Haven, he seems more isolated than ever. But when her grandma Mabel died and left Quinn this rambling Victorian where she'd grown up, it had seemed like a miracle. Instead of managing someone else's hotel, she could finally own her own business. A dream come true. Except at what cost? Her son's happiness? The dining room is already filling with weekend guests when Quinn emerges with a stack of pancakes. She slides them onto the buffet and begins refilling coffee cups. A few minutes later, a burst of high-pitched laughter cuts through the dining room, Meg's trademark, I'm flirting laugh. Quinn turns and sees her friend at the reception desk talking to a tall man with his back to the dining room. Even from behind, there's something striking about him. Broad shoulders beneath an expensive suit, dark hair neatly trimmed at the nape of his neck. Something in the way he carries himself, the confident stance, the slight tilt of his head as he listens to Meg, draws Quinn's attention like a magnet. There's something familiar in that posture, something that makes Quinn's heart skip a beat before her brain can process why. She takes a step closer, coffee pot still in hand. The man shifts his weight, one hand reaching out to accept a pen from Meg. Long fingers, elegant yet strong. The coffee pot nearly slips from Quinn's suddenly numb fingers. The clatter as she sets it down too hard on a nearby table sounds distant, muffled, as if she's underwater. No, it can't be. But as the man half turns to sign whatever paper Meg has given him, Quinn sees his profile, and the world drops away completely. Those hands. She knows those hands, remembers precisely how they felt tracing patterns on her skin, gentle yet possessive. She takes a sharp intake of breath, her eyes traveling to the sharp line of his jaw, the curve of his mouth. She remembers how that jaw feels against her lips. Her heart hammers so violently she can feel it in her throat. The man's head snaps to her, and their eyes lock. Amber eyes. His eyes. The eyes that once looked at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. To his credit, those eyes only briefly widen before he schools his expression, but Quinn sees the tension that immediately stiffens his shoulders. How dare you? She thinks. Why would you be tense? You're the one that left. She walks closer, ears buzzing, and hears herself ask, May I help you? She honestly doesn't know how she manages to form words. Because this, standing before her for the first time in 10 years, is Mason Keane, the love of her life. Or so she thought. So she thought because while she was falling madly in love, his family was arranging his betrothal, apparently. And while Quinn was imagining their future together, he already had a future planned out. One that did not include her. "Quinn!" Meg says brightly. "Mr. Keane here wants to book a room." Her friend looks excited and flustered, which makes Quinn want to grind her teeth. "I'm afraid we're fully booked," she says coolly. "No, we're not," Meg says, confusion crossing her face. Mason just stares at Quinn, brows slightly furrowed. He hasn't said a thing, Quinn realizes. Not a single thing. His eyes. She thought she remembered their color well, but her memory hadn't done them justice, and she hates it. "How long will you be staying for, sir?" Meg asks, batting her eyelashes. Her flirting so obvious it's embarrassing. "He's taken," Quinn wants to scream. "Married. Not interested. Not worth your time. Certainly not worth the heartbreak." It's a lie, though, she knows. For even if she'd known how it would end, with her heart shattered into a million broken pieces, she thinks she would do it again, all so that Mason would kiss her once more. "Sir," Meg insists, "do you know how long—" "Indefinitely," Mason interrupts, never taking his eyes off Quinn. Meg squeals excitedly, and suddenly it's too much. Quinn can't take any more. She can't because Mason left her, left what barely remained of Quinn after him. And she went and threw herself into the arms of the first cute guy who would have her to forget him, and got pregnant and then got left again. "I could show you around if you'd like," Meg is saying, still twirling her hair. "Oh, for crying out loud," Quinn groans, turning to her. "Give it a rest, won't you? He's married." There's an awkward silence. Quinn sees red because she's not the one being awkward here. Meg is flirting shamelessly with yet another unavailable man who so happens to be her ex, while said ex is saying nonsense about wanting to book a room in her inn. And he should know, should know. There's not a world where that is appropriate, at least not where Quinn is concerned. "Look, sir, are you single?" she asks. Mason blinks, looking properly startled. "I beg your pardon?" "Yeah, see, my friend here," Quinn jerks a thumb toward Meg. "She always goes for the married ones, so can you please tell her you're married so we can all move on?" Mason's mouth opens and closes once before he finds words. "I'm not," he says eventually, cautiously. Quinn sighs. "What, still engaged?" she insists. "Well, Mason begins. "See?" Quinn says, turning to Meg triumphantly. "Widowed," Mason concludes, and Quinn freezes, her victory evaporating into thin air. His wife is dead. His wife died, and he didn't think of telling her, at least? Coming back? No, of course not. It was never about that other girl anyway, was it? "Sorry for your loss," she mutters, then moves away abruptly to return to the kitchen. Mason moves so swiftly she doesn't see it. He always used to do that. One second he'd be this awfully polite, affable, sunny person, and the next... His fingers grasp her arm, spinning her back toward him. "Wait, Quinn?" He tries, and for the first time since he came here, he looks affected, at least. By what? Quinn has no idea. Surely not by her. "Let go of me," she says. Mason looks like he isn't going to. There are specks of gold in his irises, just like she remembers, flickering to life when he's emotional. I said let go of me, Mason, Quinn snaps. He does slowly, reluctantly. I apologize, he murmurs, making Quinn snort. For what? She challenges, and when Mason looks startled and as sad as she feels, she grins bitterly and says, Yeah, I thought so, and walks away. Chapter 4, Jeremy. I'm going crazy in here, Eva groans, pacing the confines of Jeremy's bedroom. My wolf is about to lose it. Jeremy looks up from his comic book. We could go to the park, and then maybe the mall. Mom gave me $5. He reaches under his bed and pulls out his backpack. I can bring some clothes for you, too. Eva's face lights up. Really? Sure, it's Saturday. We can be out all day if we want. Jeremy stuffs a pair of jeans and a smaller t-shirt into his backpack. Eva rushes to the window, peering out eagerly at the sunny day, and then she goes still. Something wrong? Jeremy joins her at the window. Eva points to a tall man in dark jeans and an expensive-looking sweater, walking the grounds behind the inn. Probably a guest, Jeremy tells her. He's not a guest, Eva whispers. He's my alpha. What? Jeremy leans closer to the glass, his heart speeding up. You mean that's your dad? Eva nods, shrinking back from the window. He must have tracked me here. Her voice drops even lower. If he looks up right now, he might sense us watching. Jeremy quickly pulls back from the window, his pulse pounding in his ears. Can he break down doors? Or walls? If he wanted to, Eva says simply, eyes wide and serious. Jeremy watches the man outside, Eva's father, more closely. There's something about the intensity in his search that makes Jeremy's chest ache, but now with fear. His own father left before he was even born. Didn't even care enough to send a birthday card ever. Yet Eva's dad is here, searching for her. Maybe you should go to him, Jeremy suggests hesitantly. He must be worried about you. Eva's eyes flash with something between fear and defiance. You don't understand what alphas are like when they're angry. When I ran away, I broke pack law. In the old days, wolves were banished for less. But he's your dad, Jeremy protests. He's the alpha first, dad second, Eva says bitterly. Always has been. She peeks out the window again, then quickly ducks down. Get down. He's coming this way. They scramble back from the glass. Jeremy's mind races with comic book scenarios of walls being smashed and doors being ripped from hinges. What do we do? If he's looking for you, I don't think we can go outside. Eva's face falls, then hardens with determination. We just need to be extra careful. If he tries to take me, throw a fit. Tell everyone I'm your wolf. He won't want to make a scene. He's obsessed with keeping our existence secret from humans. Really? Jeremy asks. Trust me, my father is all about appearances. Okay. Jeremy swallows hard. You should probably be fangs when we go out. Eva nods, then shifts smoothly into wolf form. The sandy-colored pup looks up at Jeremy expectantly. Let's go. Jeremy grabs the leash, his backpack, and takes a deep breath. Stay close to me. They head downstairs, Jeremy trying his best to look casual. The inn is busy with Saturday guests checking in and out, which works to their advantage. More people means more distractions and possible witnesses. At the bottom of the stairs, Jeremy peeks around the corner. The lobby is clear, but he can see Meg at the front desk, chatting with a couple. His mom is nowhere in sight. "Come on," Jeremy whispers, tugging gently on Eva's leash. They make it to the back hallway that leads to the garden door. Just as Jeremy reaches for the handle, Eva freezes, hackles rising. Jeremy follows her gaze through the window. Eva's father is right outside, examining something on the ground. They back away from the door, Eva tugging Jeremy toward the laundry room. "Good idea," Jeremy whispers, following her lead. The laundry room has a side door that guests never use. Through its window, they can see Eva's father has moved to the front of the inn, still searching. "Now's our chance," Jeremy whispers, easing open the side door. They slip outside, sticking close to the building's shadow. Jeremy leads Eva along the perimeter, heading for the tree line that borders the property. They're almost there when Jeremy hears a deep voice behind them. "Excuse me." Jeremy freezes, then slowly turns. Eva's father stands 20 feet away, his amber eyes fixed on Eva. "That's an unusual dog you have there," the man says, his voice casual but his stance tense. Jeremy's mouth goes dry. "She's a husky mix," he manages. The man takes a step closer. Eva presses against Jeremy's leg, trembling slightly. "Don't come any closer," Jeremy blurts out. "She's scared of strangers." The man's eyes narrow, studying Eva intently. "What's her name?" he asks. "Fangs," Jeremy answers, remembering Eva's instructions to act like she belongs to him. The man is close enough now that Jeremy can see the intensity in his eyes. He reaches a hand toward Eva, who backs away, growling softly, and suddenly this man, this very dangerous man, looks sad. "See? Scared of strangers," Jeremy repeats, his voice cracking. His legs feel like jelly and sweat beads on his forehead. Eva's growl deepens, a sound no dog would make, and Jeremy swears the man growls at her right back. "Eva," he says quietly, his voice deep and certain. "Come here." Jeremy feels his stomach drop to his shoes. "Her name is Fangs," he defends, his voice coming out higher than intended. "And she's my pet." Jeremy's never been so terrified in his life, not even when Tommy Wilson and his friends cornered him behind the school. But he can't abandon Eva. Then, like an answer to a prayer, he spots his mom on the back porch, up on a ladder trying to change a light bulb. Except the ladder wobbles precariously beneath her. "Mom!" Jeremy calls out just as the ladder tips. Eva's father turns, sees Quinn falling, and in a blur of movement that no human could possibly match, he's at the porch, catching her before she hits the ground. "Now!" Jeremy gasps, and he and Eva bolt for the trees. They sprint with the desperate energy of prey animals. Chapter 5, Quinn. "Just a little more," Quinn mutters, stretching precariously from the top of the ladder. The back porch light has been flickering for days, driving her crazy during the evening wine hour when guests like to sit outside. One more inch and she can reach the socket. The ladder wobbles beneath her, but Quinn ignores it, the light bulb almost within her grasp when Mom! Quinn glances over. Jeremy is at the edge of the yard with fangs and Mason. For a heartbeat, Quinn forgets she's balanced on a metal death trap 3 feet off the ground. Forgets everything except the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. Anger surges through her at the memory, and Quinn makes a too-quick movement. The ladder shifts, the world tilting as her feet lose contact with the metal rung. And then she's falling. A short yelp escapes her throat as she braces for impact. It never comes. Instead, strong arms catch her, cradling her body against a solid chest. What the... Quinn struggles to process what just happened. She blinks, disoriented, and finds herself looking up into amber eyes, Mason's eyes. What the hell? Quinn breathes. Are you hurt? Mason asks, his voice pitched low, intimate in a way that makes her skin prickle. Quinn struggles to find her bearings. Where did you come from? The yard, Mason says simply. Quinn looks over his shoulder at the spot where he'd been standing with Jeremy just seconds ago. But you were all the way over there, she says, pointing. She becomes suddenly aware that she's still in his arms, one of his hands warm against her back, the other under her knees. And well, the last time he held her this way was the weekend they'd driven to the coast, when he'd carried her into the ocean, despite her squealing protests. You can put me down now, she points out, a flush creeping up her neck despite herself. Mason carefully sets her on her feet, but his hands linger at her waist a moment too long, as if he's reluctant to break contact. Are you hurt? He asks. Just my pride, Quinn says, willing her heartbeat to slow down. Where did Jeremy go? He ran off with his dog when you fell. Quinn scoffs at that. So much for checking up on her. Kids. So ungrateful, she thinks, just as the memory of Jeremy's tense face resurfaces. Then, Quinn's mama bear instincts flare. Why were you talking to my son? She snaps, staring Mason in the eye, trying not to notice how he towers over her. Your son? Mason asks, as an emotion flickers briefly across his face. Someone else might not have noticed yet, let alone identified it. Someone else isn't Quinn. Oh, relax, he isn't yours. She scowls, all the more when Mason visibly relaxes at that. And since he isn't, may I ask what you wanted with him? Mason stiffens slightly. I apologize if I overstepped. I was asking about his pet, he says carefully. He's a brave boy. Quinn raises an eyebrow. She's been told Jeremy is overly cautious too many times to count. Very mature for his age on numerous occasions, but brave. Bravery had never come up. He defended it quite fiercely. Mason continues. That takes courage. He did? Quinn asks. Very much so. You should be proud. He stood his ground quite admirably. A spark of pride warms Quinn's chest, and then Mason's words register. Wait a minute. Stood his ground? Quinn repeats, suspicion blooming. Why would he need to stand his ground? Oh. He looks briefly uncomfortable at that. Well, I thought his dog was my daughter. Excuse me? Quinn blinks. I mean, Mason runs a hand through his dark hair. I thought it was my daughter's dog. Quinn stares at him. So Mason has a daughter who lost her mother, apparently. Quinn's anger at Mason is overpowered by empathy for the poor kid. "Well, it's not," Quinn says, "because that's not a dog, that's a wolf." "You don't say," Mason quips, though he doesn't look surprised. He'd probably notice that too then, Quinn thinks, which probably explains why he's looking at her like that. Because he too, like Meg, thinks she shouldn't let her son own a pet wolf. Which, fine, valid concern, but also none of Mason's business. "The wolf is very well behaved, if you must know," Quinn defends, crossing her arms. "She is?" Mason asks, looking startled before clearing his throat. "I mean, really?" Quinn narrows her eyes at him. "Hey, you're not going to call animal control on my kid, are you? Because I'll have you know." "No," Mason raises his hands in appeasement. "I really did just confuse the wolf with my daughter's pet, that's all." Something flickers in Mason's eyes, pain quickly masked, which is probably why Quinn asks her next question. "Where is your daughter then? Did you leave her alone with the cult?" Mason flinches at the term. "My family is not a cult, Quinn." "Really? Because from the outside it sure looked like one," Quinn counters. She remembers how they'd lived, clustered together on that massive property, how they'd homeschooled the children, kept to themselves, appeared in town only in groups. "You were always together, never letting outsiders in," Quinn argues, "controlling who everyone talked to, who they married." Her voice catches on the last word. "You don't know what you're talking about," Mason protests. "Of course I do," Quinn snaps. "Your father decided who you could be with and you just went along with it." Mason's face closes. "I apologize," he says. "For what exactly?" Quinn challenges, unable to stop herself. "For showing up at my inn after 10 years like it's nothing? Or for—" "For all of it," Mason interrupts quietly. Quinn looks away. "So is your daughter still there, being groomed for whatever future your father has planned for her?" Mason's jaw tightens. "My father is gone. I lead the family now." This catches Quinn off guard. Old Man Keane had seemed eternal, his authority absolute. She remembers how Mason had spoken of him, with reverence and fear in equal measure. "Gone," she repeats, incredulous. "After what happened with my brother," Mason says, his voice carefully controlled. "Things changed." "What happened to Elliot?" Quinn asks, her anger momentarily forgotten. Mason's older brother, golden boy, heir apparent, the one who could do no wrong in their father's eyes. Mason looks away. He's gone too. The pain in his voice is real, and Quinn feels a pang of sympathy despite herself. Whatever happened, it clearly haunts him. "And to answer your original question, no," Mason continues. "My daughter isn't with the family. She ran away." "Wait, what?" "Oh my God," Quinn whispers, genuine concern replacing her suspicion. "Is that why you're here? Are you looking for her?" Mason nods, his face unreadable. "She's not in danger, but—" He trails off, looking toward the woods where Jeremy disappeared. "She doesn't want to come home." The pain in his voice is unmistakable, and Quinn feels a surge of sympathy. "I'm so sorry," she tells him. "That must be awful." "I believe I failed her as a father," Mason says quietly. "We all make mistakes." Quinn leans against the porch railing. My kid's having a rough time since we moved here. No friends, quiet all the time. She shakes her head. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice, uprooting him for this inn. You did what you thought was best, I'm sure, Mason says simply. Did I? Or did I do what I wanted and tell myself it was for him too? Quinn sighs. You said Jeremy was brave. I worry he's too anxious, too careful. His father left before he was born, and I wonder if that's why he... His father left? Mason interrupts, voice sharp. Yeah, we were 19. Classic story. Boy knocks up girlfriend, boy runs for the hills. He abandoned his child. Something dangerous flashes in Mason's eyes. He abandoned you? He wasn't the first to do so, was he? Quinn snaps. Mason flinches as if she'd slapped him. That was different. Was it? Quinn challenges. She crosses her arms. At least Jeremy's father was honest about not wanting responsibility. I never lied about wanting you, Mason says. Surely you know that. He steps closer, close enough that she can see the individual flecks of gold in his eyes. Quinn, he begins, his voice urgent. Stop it, she warns. Whatever you're about to say, don't. For a moment, she thinks he'll ignore her, push forward with whatever confession or explanation he wants to offer. The old Mason might have. But this Mason, older, carrying new burdens, simply nods and steps back. I should get back to work, Quinn sighs. That light still needs fixing. Allow me, Mason offers, already moving toward the ladder. Quinn watches as he climbs with easy precision, changing the bulb in seconds. The familiar way he moves, efficient and graceful, sends an unwelcome pang through her chest. When he hands her the old bulb, their fingers brush. Thank you, she says stiffly, taking a small step back. Mason nods, his eyes never leaving hers. Quinn, She turns away, unable to bear whatever he might say next. The past is the past. She has an inn to run, a son to raise, a life that doesn't have room for reopening old wounds. Chapter 6. Jeremy. Jeremy watches Eva's face light up as they wander through the town park, her eyes wide with wonder at everything from the ice cream truck to the playground equipment. After their narrow escape from Eva's father, they'd spent the day exploring. Eva in human form wearing Jeremy's extra clothes, her red hair tucked under his baseball cap. We don't have anything like this in the pack territory. She points excitedly at the colorful playground. You've never been on a swing? Jeremy asks, incredulous. No, Dad says it's too dangerous to play with human children. Jeremy grabs Eva's hand. Come on! After the swings, Jeremy introduces Eva to his favorite spot, a small pond where paper boats can be sailed. I've got just enough money left for the boat guy, Jeremy says, pulling his last dollar from his pocket. Eva watches, fascinated, as the vendor hands them 2 small boats. They watch their tiny vessels drift across the pond, racing each other to the other side. This is way better than training, Eva sighs happily. What kind of training do you do? Jeremy asks, skipping a stone across the water. Eva shrugs. Mostly shifting and tracking and fighting. Fighting? Jeremy's eyes widen. Yes, for when I'm older. Eva explains. Future alphas have to be the strongest, fastest, and toughest. All I ever do is train. I never get to just... She gestures around the park. Have fun.
Maybe ask your dad for a day off?
Eva laughs. You don't tell an alpha what to do, even if he's your dad. They're quiet for a moment, watching their paper boats reach the other side of the pond. We should head back, Jeremy says finally, noticing the lengthening shadows. Mom will be worried. When they reach the inn, Eva shifts back to wolf form behind some bushes, and they enter through the laundry room door as before. The inn seems quiet. Most guests must be out for dinner. They climb the stairs to the apartment, finding the door unlocked. Inside, Jeremy's mom is seated at her small easel in the corner of the living room, paintbrush in hand, completely absorbed in her work. Hey, kiddo, have fun? Ava, in wolf form, freezes mid-step, staring at Quinn's painting, a landscape of the forest behind the inn, the colors vibrant and bold. I ordered pizza for dinner, Quinn says. Should be here in 20 minutes. I thought we could watch a movie together. Awesome, Jeremy exclaims. An hour later, they're sprawled on the couch, empty pizza box on the coffee table, watching an animated movie, Ava's wolf eyes never leaving the screen. Halfway through the movie, the phone rings. Mrs. Henderson's shower's out again, Quinn says. I'll be right back. After she leaves, Eva shifts back to human form, grabbing Jeremy's blanket to wrap around herself. Your mom is so cool, Eva whispers, her eyes bright with excitement. She makes things, with her hands, like actual beautiful things. Jeremy shrugs. She's always painted. She wanted to go to art school, but then she had me instead. Can I see more of her paintings? Eva asks eagerly. I guess, Jeremy says, pausing the movie. She has a little studio in the spare room. He leads Eva to the smallest bedroom in the apartment, which Quinn has converted into an art space. Easels stand by the window, and canvases lean against the walls. Eva spins in a slow circle, taking it all in. She moves from canvas to canvas, touching the edges gently. What's in there? Eva asks, pointing to a large portfolio leaning against the wall. I don't know, Jeremy admits. Mom keeps her old stuff in there, I think. Naturally, this makes Eva curious, and she swiftly pulls the portfolio out. Eva? Jeremy groans nervously. What? We're just appreciating your mom's art, Eva insists, already flipping through the papers. The first few sketches are of landscapes, buildings, and occasionally Jeremy as a younger child. But then Eva gasps, holding up a portrait, and Jeremy's jaw drops. It's a detailed pencil drawing of a man that looks just like... My dad! That's totally my dad! Eva exclaims. They quickly discover the portfolio contains at least a dozen drawings of Eva's dad. Some quick sketches, others detailed portraits. In one, he's laughing, his head thrown back. In another, he's reading a book, his expression serene. I don't understand, Jeremy says, confused. Why would Mom have all these drawings of your dad? Because, Jeremy, Eva whispers. She's totally crushing on him. What? No way, Jeremy protests. Yes way, Eva says with authority. Jeremy studies the drawing. Are you sure that's your dad, though? Jeremy points out. He looks much younger. It's definitely him, Eva insists. Maybe they'd met before? She gasps. Oh my God, Jeremy, are you thinking what I'm thinking? That this is really awkward? Eva shakes her head in disappointment. Oh, Jeremy, my poor simple human friend. She sighs. No, I'm thinking if your mom started dating my dad. Why would they do that? Jeremy interrupts. I don't know, adult reasons? Eva shrugs. The point is, if they dated, my dad would let us hang out. Jeremy considers this. Well, I guess that's true, but... And, Eva continues excitedly, your mom is so much cooler than all the women his council wants him to remarry. What's a council? Jeremy asks. Old dudes who think they can tell my dad what's best, Eva explains. And they think what's best is for my dad to produce a second heir because my mom died when I was a baby. Her face briefly falls at that. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jeremy says softly. Eva shrugs. It's fine. I don't remember her, she murmurs before lightening up. But if I'm going to get a new mom, I'd like her to be cool. And your mom is so cool, Jeremy. She's the coolest mom, Jeremy agrees. She lets me stay up late when I'm reading a good book, and she curses a lot. Eva nods enthusiastically. We need to get her together with my dad. I don't know, Jeremy says. No offense, but your old man's really scary. He's not so bad, Eva defends. He makes mean enchiladas. I love enchiladas, Jeremy exclaims. See? It's perfect. Eva jumps up. You get a new dad, I get a new mom, and we all get enchiladas. Jeremy grins despite himself. But how would we do it? He asks. Mom doesn't seem to like him. And trust me, she can hold a grudge forever. She still won't eat at Denny's because they messed up her order 3 years ago. We just need to get them alone together, Eva says confidently. A lot in romantic situations. What kind of romantic situations? I don't know. Being trapped in an elevator? Eva suggests excitedly. The inn doesn't have an elevator, Jeremy points out. Well, what about if they're running from danger and have to hide in a really small closet? What danger would they be running from? How about a bear? There aren't any bears around here, Eva. I could pretend to be a bear. Jeremy just stares at her. Okay, I've got it, Eva says, snapping her fingers. What if you pretend you've lost something in the woods and then we send my dad to help your mom find it? That will never... Jeremy makes a pause. Actually, you know what? That might work, he admits. Eva grins mischievously, her enthusiasm infectious. Chapter 7, Quinn. Quinn sweeps her flashlight across the forest floor, muttering curses under her breath. The sun has nearly disappeared behind the trees, casting long shadows that make her search even more difficult. His father's compass, she groans, pushing aside fallen branches. And you just happen to have it out here in the woods, Jeremy. Really? The compass is the only thing Jeremy has from the father he's never met. A man who'd only left a small box of belongings behind when he'd vanished from their lives. Quinn had kept the compass for Jeremy. When her son had burst into the kitchen an hour ago, eyes wide with panic, babbling about losing the compass while exploring the woods with fangs, Quinn hadn't hesitated. Even if it meant postponing dinner preparations for the guests and asking Meg to cover. Some things were more important. Now, picking her way through the underbrush, Quinn thinks she probably should have thought this through. Stupid trees all looking the same, she grumbles, turning in a slow circle. A twig snaps behind her, and Quinn whirls around, heart leaping to her throat. "Hello?" she calls, flashlight beam cutting through the growing darkness. A figure emerges from between the trees, and Quinn's grip tightens on the flashlight, ready to use it as a weapon if necessary. "You shouldn't be out here alone," a familiar, deep voice says. Quinn's shoulders sag, relief and irritation flooding her in equal measure. "I'm not alone now, am I?" she quips sarcastically. Mason steps fully into the circle of her flashlight beam. "What are you doing out here?" Quinn demands. "Ran into your son downstairs. He mentioned you disappearing into the woods." "So you thought you'd follow me?" Quinn retorts, crossing her arms. Mason's lips twitch, almost a smile. "I thought you might need help." "Well, I don't," Quinn snaps. "Quinn," Mason says softly. She sighs, turns to face him, flashlight pointed slightly down to avoid blinding him. "Fine," she concedes, "but only because I really need to find this compass for Jeremy." Mason nods, already scanning the forest floor with a focus that reminds Quinn of how he used to approach problems. Methodical, intent, unstoppable once he set his mind to something. "This way," he says, starting off confidently to the right. "Did you just choose at random?" Quinn challenges, but follows anyway. "I know these woods," he replies simply. They walk in silence for several minutes, Quinn struggling occasionally over fallen logs and uneven ground. Mason moves with an easy grace that irritates her. He's always been unnaturally sure-footed. They reach the oak tree, its massive trunk split by an old lightning strike that has left a jagged black scar down one side. "You know," he says after a long silence, "I almost didn't recognize you when I first checked in." Quinn scoffs. "Well, you haven't changed at all. Still the same expensive clothes, same perfect posture, same..." She trails off, not wanting to finish the thought. The same power that radiates from him. Same intensity that both thrilled and frightened her. "Same what?" he prompts. "Same ability to show up where you're not wanted," she finishes. Mason's quiet laugh surprises her. "I seem to recall you once saying that was one of my better qualities." The memory hits Quinn with unexpected force. A rainy afternoon when she'd stormed out after an argument with her roommate, wandering aimlessly until she found herself lost in an unfamiliar part of the city. Somehow, impossibly, Mason had appeared, as if summoned by her distress. "That was different," Quinn says, though the edge has left her voice. Mason opens his mouth as if to say more, but then his attention shifts to something on the ground. He kneels, brushing aside some leaves, and when he stands, he's holding a small brass compass. "Found it," he says simply, extending his hand. Quinn takes the compass, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. "Thank you," she says, tucking it safely in her pocket. Jeremy will be relieved, she thinks, but doesn't say. Sometimes he stares at this compass like his father's going to jump out of it. Like somehow, if he holds on to it, then his father will return. It breaks Quinn's heart. "Tell me about your son," Mason says quietly as they begin walking back toward the inn, now visible through the trees in the distance. Quinn glances at him, surprised by the request. What would you like to know? Just, what's he like? Mason looks away. Does he always put too much jam on his toast? Is he afraid of clowns, too? Quinn opens her mouth to remind Mason she is not, in fact, afraid of clowns, but he continues. Does he sing off-key and just so happens to blurt out whatever thought goes through his head? He's actually quite the opposite. Quinn rolls her eyes. Patient thinks before he acts. Jeremy weighs every possibility before making a decision. She gives Mason a pointed look. You always knew what you wanted, he observes, never hesitated to go after it. They walk a few steps in silence before Quinn asks, And what about your daughter? Does she smile at strangers and turn heads without realizing? Does she make you feel special and then disappears on you? Something flickers across Mason's face. Ava is fierce, he murmurs, independent, questions everything I say. Smile. She has this way of looking at you like she's sizing you up, deciding if you're worth her time. Also nothing like her parent, then, Quinn teases gently. Mason laughs, a warm sound that sends an unexpected shiver down Quinn's spine. She's braver than I ever was, he murmurs. Follows her heart without hesitation. Quinn hears the unspoken words beneath his description, that his daughter is brave in ways he wasn't, ways that might have changed everything. You've always been good at that, Quinn. Mason eyes hold hers. Living life your way, consequences be damned. They walk the rest of the way in silence, but it's a different quality of silence than before, less tense, more thoughtful. As they approach the inn's back door, the yellow light from the kitchen spills out onto the porch steps. Quinn pauses, turning to face Mason. Thank you, she says, meeting his eyes, for helping me find the compass. It belonged to Jeremy's dad. It means a lot to him. Mason steps closer, just a fraction, but enough that Quinn can feel the warmth radiating from him. I'm glad I could help. The moonlight catches in his amber eyes, and Quinn is suddenly, vividly reminded of another night, years ago, when they'd stood beneath a different moon. The memory hits her with unexpected force, his hands cradling her face, his whispered confession that he'd never felt this way about anyone before. Quinn, Mason says softly, and her name on his lips still sounds like a prayer. She knows she should step back, should go inside, should remember all the reasons why this is a terrible idea. But her body betrays her, swaying slightly toward him. Mason's hand rises to her cheek, his touch feather light, as if he's afraid she might disappear. His eyes search hers, asking a question she's not sure she knows how to answer. For one suspended moment, she's certain he's going to kiss her. Part of her, a part she thought she'd buried years ago, aches for it with startling intensity. Then something shifts in his expression, a flash of what looks like fear, and Mason pulls back abruptly, his hand falling away from her face. I'm sorry, he says, his voice strained. The sudden withdrawal feels like a physical slap. Quinn blinks, heat rising to her cheeks. Of course, he wouldn't kiss her. He made his choice years ago. Mason's expression is pained. It's not what you think, Quinn. There are reasons. There always are with you, Quinn mutters. Always secrets, always something holding you back. Quinn! Good night, Mason. she says firmly, stepping into the warm light of the inn before he can say anything else, before she can do something even more foolish. After all these years, after everything that's happened, how can he still affect her this way? How can she still be so stupid? As she closes the door behind her, Quinn leans against it for a moment, the compass clutched tightly in her hand, feeling a mix of embarrassment and another emotion she won't name for what it is. Longing. Chapter 8, Jeremy. They almost kissed, Eva whispers excitedly, pacing back and forth across Jeremy's bedroom. She's in human form, wearing one of his t-shirts as a nightgown, her red hair wild around her face. I saw them through the window. Jeremy sits cross-legged on his bed, absently spinning the compass between his fingers. But they didn't actually kiss, he points out. Your dad backed away. Ava waves her hand dismissively. Details. The point is they wanted to. Did you see your mom's face when she came inside? Jeremy had noticed. His mom had tried to act normal, but her eyes had that distant look she got when she was upset about something. Your plan worked pretty well, Jeremy admits. The compass was a good idea. Told you! Eva plops down beside him, bouncing on the mattress. But we need to do more. They're fighting it. Fighting what? Ava rolls her eyes dramatically. Their feelings, dummy. Grown-ups do that. They like to make everything complicated. So what do we do now? Jeremy asks. We need to be sneakier, Eva decides, more strategic. As Eva scribbles down ideas, Jeremy feels a flutter of hope in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, this crazy plan could work. Maybe he could finally have a dad who wouldn't leave, and Ava could have a mom who'd let her just be a kid sometimes. Chapter 9, Quinn. The days at Pine Haven Inn shift into a rhythm that Quinn doesn't recognize, and that unnerves her more than she'd ever admit. Because Mason Keane is everywhere. When the ancient coffee maker sputters its final breath on a busy Saturday morning, Mason appears like summoned magic, toolbox in hand and sleeves rolled up. You always did break things when you were stressed, he says with a crooked grin, kneeling beside the counter. I'm not stressed, Quinn lies, taking the screwdriver he offers. She watches him work, deft hands moving with quiet confidence, and her mind betrays her. Flashing images of those same hands splayed across her skin, tugging at her hips, threading through her hair, holding her still while he kissed her until she forgot her name. She exhales shakily, forcing herself to look away. When the spring rain comes, Quinn finds herself under the small garden gazebo, the storm turning the world around them into a blurred watercolor of silver sheets and dripping leaves. And of course, Mason is there too. He stands close enough that she can feel the heat of his body even in the chill air, but not quite touching. Not yet. Looks like we're stuck, he says, eyes on the storm. She wraps her arms around herself. We'll dry. Mason glances down at her. You remember that storm in Portland? Her stomach twists. She does, too well. Running through the city, soaked and laughing, ducking into that bookshop to escape the rain. Mason pinning her against a wall of antique maps, kissing her senseless before dragging her to the floor behind a stack of biographies. Poetry forgotten, hands everywhere. No, she says too quickly. His gaze sharpens. Liar. Raindrops hit the roof like drum beats. She can feel every tick of the clock in her spine. 23 agonizing minutes of silence stretch between them, soaked in memory, tension, and everything they're not saying. The water heater dies on Tuesday evening because of course it does. Quinn stands in the basement, arms crossed, eyeing the massive tank like she could will it back to life. She doesn't hear the footsteps until they're already halfway down the stairs. "Let me guess," she mutters. "You just happen to be nearby." Mason shrugs, setting down a flashlight and a wrench. "Your inn has terrible luck. Fortunately, I'm extremely handy. And it's not just broken appliances." Mason appears on her morning walks, falling into step beside her without warning. When the firewood delivery arrives, he's already unloading the logs, sleeves pushed up, shirt clinging to his back. She hates how beautiful he is, hates how natural it feels to see him here, helping her, smiling like he belongs. And she really hates how her hands ache to touch him. One evening, she finds him in the library, thumbing through a worn book of poetry. Her breath catches. "Still reading Blake?" Their eyes meet. The silence stretches, taut as a drawn bowstring. She remembers reading to him in bed, naked under the covers, his fingers tracing lines over her stomach while she whispered stanzas into the dark. Blake has always been her favorite poet. And still, things keep happening. Jeremy somehow is thriving. He seems happier, lighter, laughing more, especially when Mason's daughter Fangs is around. One night, Quinn hears him at his door. "Of course she'd want extra pepperoni," he says, as if responding to someone. "Mom always forgets." There's a beat of silence. Then, "No, I didn't tell him, should I?" Quinn frowns. His tone is conspiratorial, animated. She presses an ear to the door. No response, just him, just his voice, and the soft shuffle of paws on the floor. Later, she brings it up to Meg. "Kids and their pets," Meg says with a shrug. "But can we talk about how Mr. Broodywolf can't stop looking at you? He practically inhaled you during breakfast." "He did not," Quinn says, turning away to hide the flush creeping up her neck. "Oh, honey," Meg grins. "The tension between you two is so thick I could spread it on toast." Quinn mutters something obscene and goes back to her paperwork. That evening, she's on the back porch again, painting the sunset. Her strokes are uneven, her thoughts a mess. The air shifts. She doesn't need to turn, she knows it's him. "You still paint," Mason says, voice warm against her ear. "Some habits don't die." He stands behind her now, close, too close. "It's beautiful," he murmurs. Her hand tightens on the edge of the easel. His nearness is dizzying. Her body remembers too much. The press of him, the taste, the way he used to whisper her name. Before he can say anything else, Meg's voice cuts through the moment. "Quinn, phone call, Mrs. Henderson." She walks away before she changes her mind, but the ache lingers. The next morning, she's cleaning the breakfast room when Mason appears with something clutched in his hand. Her stomach drops. The folder. Her sketch folder. The one she keeps buried under journals and tax forms in the bottom drawer of her art desk. The one filled with a younger Mason, shirtless, asleep, laughing. The version of him she never really let go. "I found these in my room," he says, voice unreadable. Her blood runs cold. "You weren't supposed to see those." I didn't think you still had them. He holds out a drawing. This one. Me on the balcony reading. Quinn snatches the folder from his hand. They're private. You kept them? It doesn't mean anything. It does. His voice is quiet, steady. Why did you make so many portraits of me if... Oh, for crying out loud, Mason. Quinn snaps. Like you needed any more proof of how much I loved you. Wasn't it obvious? I loved you so much it scared me. And then you left. Mason steps closer. What about now? He asks. Her mouth opens, but nothing comes out. How do you feel now? He presses. Her hands clench around the folder, her heart thundering. What does it matter, she whispers. He lifts a hand, cupping her cheek with aching gentleness. It matters to me. Then he kisses her. No warning, no hesitation. It's 10 years of longing crashing into one breathless, desperate moment. His mouth claims hers, and she shatters. She drops the folder, pages scatter. Her hands bury themselves in his shirt, his hair. His arms wrap around her like they'll never let go again. She arches into him, gasping as his lips trail from her mouth to her jaw, then back again. It's reckless, messy, unforgivable. It's everything she's missed. Everything she still wants. And it's only the beginning. Chapter 10, Jeremy. They kissed! Eva whispers fiercely, bouncing on Jeremy's bed in human form. They actually kissed in the breakfast room! Jeremy looks up from his comic book, eyes wide. How do you know? Did you see them? No, but I could smell it on my dad when he came back to his room. Eva taps her nose proudly. Shifter senses, remember? He smelled like your mom's perfume and happiness. Happiness has a smell? Jeremy asks, amazed. Duh. Eva rolls her eyes. Everything has a smell. And my dad was practically covered in I just kissed someone I really like scent. Jeremy scrunches his nose. Gross. But also awesome. Our plan worked. They high-five, grinning at each other like co-conspirators. Operation Parent Trap was a total success, Eva declares. The drawings were genius. I still can't believe we did that, Jeremy admits. Mom would kill me if she knew I went through her private stuff. But she won't kill you, Eva points out, because now she's too busy kissing my dad. They dissolve into giggles, quickly muffling the sound with pillows. Over the next few days, Jeremy and Eva watch with growing amusement as their parents attempt and fail to be discreet. From the safety of the hallway, they observe Quinn and Mason accidentally brushing hands while passing coffee in the breakfast room. They exchange knowing glances when both adults make excuses to check